This episode of Geniuses of Copywriting is proudly sponsored by the GaryHalbertLetter.com. In the modern world of copywriting, all roads lead to Gary Halbert, and at the GaryHalbertLetter.com you will find the free issues of his newsletter, which has inspired and helped thousands of copywriters hone their skills and become better sales writers.
Welcome to the Geniuses of Copywriting podcast, a peek into the minds and strategies of the world's greatest copywriters, marketers, and persuasion experts. And now, here's your host, Brian Casangina.
All right, everybody, welcome back to the Geniuses of Copywriting podcast. Today we've got an interview that I recorded with my dear departed friend and former Mindvalley colleague and top copywriter Kenneth Yu Kern San. Now, Kenneth sadly left us soon after this was recorded, so I kind of sat on it for a while. I wasn't really sure what to do. I wanted to be respectful, but I eventually reached out to his lovely widow Laura, who I had met before with him at the luxury apartment of Mindvalley boss Vishen Lakiani, and the good news was that she was all for it because she knows that Kenneth would want his teachings to get out there and help you and other marketers and copywriters. And so here we are. Kenneth's Facebook profile is still online, so if you knew him or if you learned something from this podcast, then please feel free to leave a nice tribute on his page there. I'm sure Laura would love to read and hear about it. The only thing is, this interview was recorded a number of years ago, different setup, different hardware, and it was recorded using different methods, so it won't sound the same as what you're hearing me now, but the information in there which Kenneth shares is timeless. It will help you as long as you go and listen, make notes, and implement. So this is a Genius of Copywriting podcast with Kenneth Yu Kern San.
So, can you start with a bit of your background? I know it's very interesting and inspirational in a lot of ways too. So I know that you were the number one persuasionist at Mindvalley back in the day.
Yes. So I'm just going to go into a little bit of my background, and it's a convoluted but short backstory. And the reason I'm doing that, there is a reason why I'm doing that for the call later. So I actually started in Ogilvy. So I worked in Ogilvy for 3 years. I was a madman, like the ones in Madison Avenue. I was doing ads for Heineken and The Economist and all these big brands. Won about 12 awards. So 12 awards, about 2 years. Won every ad award except one. Then I was in Mindvalley. So in Ogilvy, I learned branding and positioning. In Mindvalley, I started learning direct response. So my very first exposure to direct response was Harlan Kilstein's swipe file. Then I learned direct response, grew the company, actually doubled their revenues in 2 years. Like because you work in Mindvalley, right, Brian? So all the email sequences, all the funnels and everything were actually all developed during my time.
Yeah.
So basically, I was ground zero because I was actually the first copywriter they ever hired. So did that for a while, left Mindvalley, wanted to fund my wedding because I left Mindvalley earlier than I should. And there was a wedding I needed to fund. And my beautiful wife from Zimbabwe, Laura. So what happened was I launched the very first Twitter marketing product on the market. As I realized today. And I actually launched the second ever email copywriting product on the market as well. That shows my age, right? So we launched that Twitter marketing product. We broke even in 5 minutes. We made money in half an hour. I financed my wedding in under a month.
Nice.
So we were nice in the sky. Because we were taught the KL Tower, if you know the KL Tower.
Yeah.
So it was a wedding in the clouds, pretty much. It was just awesome. We made enough money for our honeymoon as well. And then we pivoted. So I was an info marketing guy in the early days. And then I followed the money. Because then, you might have heard of Nitro Marketing. Nitro Marketing came out with something called the local marketing system, where you take your internet marketing, you do it for local business owners. We did that. We so happened that in Malaysia, because I was one of the first few to do it, we got the big clients in. So we're talking about the billion-dollar giants. Didn't know about internet marketing. They tapped into me. So I was doing local marketing work for billion-dollar companies. So I really started one of the first few corporate digital agencies in Malaysia. So my clients ended up like McDonald's, Fujitsu, Groupon. Like we had all the big brands and everything. 2 years ago, I cashed out one of these agencies. We had multiple agencies by then. I cashed out one of them. Then we had a bit of a soul-searching journey the last few years. And we pivoted back into copywriting. And that's when, I started, because my copywriting career at that time was from Mindvalley, and it sort of stopped, like my whole direct response copywriting journey. I was curious to see, okay, despite being absent for so long, can I, in a sense, how far can I push in this journey? And the very interesting thing is, even though I wasn't in copywriting, but because of all the varied experiences I had, the last few campaigns and the last few clients and even the businesses I grew over the last few years was exponential. And over the last few years, I worked for Agora and I wrote for some other pieces. I have 2 ClickBank Platinum winners. I had the #1 BizOp offer in ClickBank last year. Wow. I had one of the top ClickBank offers for spirituality the year before that. I'll talk a bit about the methodology. That means, especially in different industries, my copy is crushing it. And last year, I accidentally started a movement called WYODC, that stands for Write Your Own Damn Check. And it's all about depending on yourself, not on government subsidies and lockdowns, everything. So I wanted to empower business owners to seize their financial destiny and their freedom. And I did a launch based on that. And it was insane. Like, I was making $182 per Facebook group subscriber.
Wow.
So that's crushing it. And it's all based on the principles that I developed over the last few years. And this year, we're going to launch a few more health offers. Like, we already done health offers, but I want to do a mega successful ClickBank style one. And I want to go into financial copywriting as well. That's the last mountain I haven't conquered. So that's my journey for now.
Yeah, I'm sure it's another area which you will conquer. It looks like nothing is beyond your reach, and it's particularly interesting to me and a lot of us about writing your own check and controlling your own destiny, because the way the reason that resonates with me, the way I feel now, I never have to go and work a job again, because over the years of me coming up as a copywriter and learning the craft and leaving my 9-to-5 job and becoming a full-time copywriter, and then having to go back to a job after a while and then leave again. I actually went through that cycle about 2 or 3 times before it actually stuck, and I was actually making the kind of money that I didn't have to go to back to a 9-to-5 job after some period of time. So I'm just like stubborn in my ways, which is why it took me so long. But hopefully you'll be able to give us a few ideas for anyone in this group who wants to take that step and really make it permanent. Because the people in this group are not so much the beginner copywriters. Most people here, have been doing it for a while. A lot of them are marketers rather than pure copywriters, but they all know copy. They will be doing it for a while. They will have their successes, and so that they don't need to know what is a headline and what is a testimonial and stuff like that. So we get to speak all that stuff. So yeah.
So I think let's go a bit into why I had this convoluted journey, or why I revealed that convoluted journey, because I could very easily say, I wrote copy for this, and I got this level of success, and that should be sufficient. Yeah. And the reason for that, right, is I believe that when it comes to copywriting success, a lot of the success actually lies in non-copywriting endeavors that you have. So, and let me explain that. Let me just explain what I mean by that. So, the whole premise of good copywriting and copywriting success is a good offer, right? Like, basically, it is all about the foundational piece. Actually, you have a good offer, everything amplifies from that. And what I realized, what a good offer boils down to is to give people what they want in a way they don't expect. To give people what they want in a way they don't expect, which is novelty meets relevance. And what I mean by that, so let me just break it down a little bit. So giving people what they want is foundational persuasion direct response 101. Yeah. Because you learn the triggers, you learn the templates, you learn the right things to say, etc., etc. But that's not enough to move people, because people are attracted to novelty. They're attracted to something different. So let me just give you an example of that. So basically, I wrote a supplements promotion a while ago, and even Agora themselves were pleased with that supplements promotion. It was for diabetes and everything. Yeah. They were like, "Wow, this is amazing. We never seen." I actually even showed it to David Deutsch, whom you may know, and David said, "This is great. This is awesome." So the legend says it's awesome, right? Yeah. But it bombed. But it bombed, and we're like, okay, why did it bomb? And we realized, right, so when we tracked the video stats of it, right, we realized that I used an ingredient that was a very cliched ingredient in the marketplace. So it was called Genema. So if you actually write any form of blood sugar, Genema is around the last 12, 30 years maybe. So 20 years ago, it was hot. It wasn't hot this year. So it wasn't hot a few years ago when I wrote it. But that was my star ingredient. So even though I know what people wanted, because I myself have high blood sugar and everything, and in fact, it might sound a bit crazy, but I actually spiked my blood sugar so I could write like the page, like basically to speak to the, because I like a method actor that way. So that hit all the right buttons. And the intake, like people were going through the video, and suddenly during the words, when the person or the spokesperson mentioned the word genema, everyone dropped out.
Wow.
Everyone dropped out. Why? Because genema is not new. It's something they expect. So if you give people something that they want in the way that they expect, then your offer isn't very strong. I mean, it's worse if you don't give people what they want in the way they expect. It's worse. And so what happens is basically to give people what they want is foundational, direct response, read the books, etc., your Cialdini and everything. But to give people what they don't expect is out of the copywriting realm. Because if all you do is study the swipes and the masters and everything, then you will sound familiar. You will sound familiar. And once you sound familiar, people tune out. Because people are just addicted to novelty at this point.
Yeah, that's really interesting because I've heard it said like in different ways, but not really as clear as you just put it there. Give people what they don't expect. If it sounds the same as everything else, it just blends into the sea of sameness.
Yeah, which is true. And the only way to give people what they don't expect is to have interest and research and immersion into subjects outside either the copywriting or marketing realm. I don't read marketing books. So very hardly, I mean, I read 2 or 3 now, like Automatic Clients and a few different ones. I do read 2 or 3, but it's not my diet. So my diet is everything from geopolitics to how Australia is building an energy farm in Darwin to farm the energy out to Singapore, or Japanese anime. Like if you actually consume pop culture that is not American, then you start thinking in different ways, because a lot of big ideas come from a synergy of the expected and the unexpected. It comes from 2 unconnected objects that form together, create a baby called the big idea, the unique big idea. And that's what fuels the offer and what fuels the copywriting campaign. And the only way to do that is to just really expand your mind to every single possibility. And that's why I have this convoluted background I have, because the edge that is given me as a copywriter is, look, I've done the madman sort of thing. That means I have a branding positioning mindset. I even won awards. I didn't know I actually won. That's how many awards I won. Like 3 weeks ago, I realized, hey, I didn't know I won the D&AD Wooden Pencil Award. Holy smokes. It was in the website. It was because they put my name on some website, something I did 12 years ago. I didn't even know I won that. And that is in textbooks, by the way. So the ads are actually, my ads are in textbooks teaching people. So that's one aspect. And then, of course, there's the direct response stuff, which is evergreen and everything. And then I went to the digital marketing agency realm, where it was a brick and mortar stuff. Like we didn't even do any online marketing. It was pure word of mouth referral. So I learned sales, I learned client management, I learned project management. And now we are doing things like supplements, everything. So I'm learning about the life sciences, I'm learning health and finance and all these different things. And that is what gives me the edge.
Wow. Yeah. All of that is kind of not only is it's steps most copywriters don't take and most marketers don't take, but it's one of the reasons why it's not taught. I think a lot of copywriting marketing teachers just stick to that copywriting area, and they're like, if you study Cialdini and Dan Kennedy and John Carlton and everything like that, you'll be able to write these $1 million promos all the time. But that's giving people what they want, but in a way that they expect. So, for me, the way you explain, give people what they don't in a way they don't expect is, it's worth paying to get on this call. So I would pay you now, just that for a breakthrough like that. That's how important I think what you're talking about is here.
Yeah, thank you for that. Another thing I want to add for copywriters who are freelancers, or even if you're not, right? One of the biggest things I've learned is the idea of weak tie networking. So weak tie networking. And what I mean by that is, it sounds very counterintuitive, but what it means is the most value you can create is in networks or clusters that don't relate very well to you. And what I mean by that is this. So let's say if you're in a gathering of copywriters, fantastic. Let's say, the stuff in Poland a few years ago, I'm still jealous today. I couldn't attend that. It was amazing. It's events, etc., etc. You get comfort in marketers, you get comfort in copywriters because no one knows what I'm doing, right? Like even my dad until now, she doesn't know what I'm doing. He just says, my son doesn't ask me for money. It's all good. I don't know what he does. So it's all good. Like you have the comfort. But comfort actually doesn't produce very high value. That means wealth. It doesn't create a lot of wealth. Where the true wealth is created, can you imagine? If you go to a health conference, all the doctors, all the pharmaceuticals are there, all the different medical devices are there. And you're the only copywriter in that meeting. You're the only copywriter in that network. When people want your service, be it marketing or copywriting, guess who they turn? You. So wealth is created that way. So for me, right, like I have this special set of skills. It's not different from anybody in direct response, really. I just parlayed it into a whole bunch of different industries. So I display those skills to heads of states, to board of directors, to billionaires and everything. I'm actually in a few circle of billionaires who like me. We talk. And for me to access funds like that is really easy. But I have a long-term goal for that. So it's not just like, for me, copywriting offers and everything, all are means to an end. But, and just even like, let's say 2 months ago, I was in Zimbabwe. I actually hung out with the chief judge of Zimbabwe. Like I went to a house for tea. So basically, so the thing is with Thai networking, you have a special set of defined skills and you just network with people outside your comfort zone and outside your industry, outside your country. That's why I take great interest in Africa. Like my wife is African, granted she's in Zimbabwe and everything, but from Nigeria and Tanzania and all these different things. And it enriches the life because it opens the doors in some way. I mean, it unlocks the neurological part of it because culturally they're different. And it just enriches that part and that informs the copywriting to make it different, novel, and giving people in a way they don't expect. But it opens doors for you. Like in the US now, it's saturated, right? I mean, you go to South Africa and then boom, your business could explode because it's still a level 1 market. Like it's a market that's not tapped. Like, webinars in the States, what's the conversion rate? 1 to 3%, right? Like if you're 3.5%, you're like, you're Caleb O'Dowd level already. In Singapore, Melvin was telling me, our mutual friend Melvin, that it can be as high as 70%, 70. Your webinar is a 70% conversion rate.
That's crazy.
Like a 10% conversion rate is disappointing. So, why? Because the market is different and the market does not have the maturity. So if you think in terms of that global framework, then success beyond the copywriting persuasion, I know there's more about copywriting persuasion, but it's almost like this success principle is what will bring you far.
Yeah. And it's like you said, it's about getting out of your comfort zone, because when you're at events, going back to that, all the people of tend to flock together. And that's just because we know each other and we're in the same business. But what you're saying is to spread out a bit more and talk with people who you don't have much in common with.
Yep, and deliberately go for events that, like, my political leanings and everything, I won't go so much into that, but I went to a particularly ultra left-wing conference when they want to overthrow the world government and its governmental systems. I was actually one of the main speakers there.
Yeah.
and I don't identify with the values at all, but I went anyway because it expands the mind, and now I have good friends across the world because I'm very easygoing, like basically, to sort of portray your values on social media isn't going to move a lot. Who's going to move the needle? You're just preaching to the converted. So I don't really do that, but so that's what I do. Yeah.
Yeah, that's really interesting. It's like good teachers like Dan Kennedy always said, to look outside your area for inspiration, this is like an expanded view of that.
Yeah.
So, what else can you tell us about the way you write copy? I mean, the stuff that where you get your inspiration from in different fields, like you were just talking about, is really amazing. So, what's one of the main things that let's go back to the big idea. That's really what I'm getting at here, because it's the combination of the copy part and the outside part. So, how do you start to come up with that big idea that the whole promotion is based around?
Okay, I have a strategy and a framework. I call it major on the minor.
Yeah.
Major on the minor. And what I mean by that is that the most interesting things about your product or service are usually the tangential things, the things that are the smallest things that are the most far removed from your product or service. And so what I do is I do an inventory of the product or service, the history, the owners, the ingredients, the mechanisms, all this sort of different things. So let me give you an example. So one of my products, or it's one of my partner's products, I'm going to rebrand it, is a broccoli extract product. So it sounds so boring, right? Broccoli extract. And it's also branded as broccoli. Like it's branded as broccoli. Like who's going to buy that, right?
It's not very appealing right now.
Yeah, like in a way, I mean, broccoli extract is powerful. Like sulforaphane is incredibly powerful antioxidant. But it was just the branding, right? But what I did, right, was then I just broke the product down to its multiple pieces. Okay, broccoli extract. What's the history of broccoli? So what are the, like, who brought broccoli to the people to mainstream? And broccoli was actually found in the Vesuvius volcano thing. Like basically it was destroyed initially because of the volcano. And all these random things, or like, my partner's formulation guy was from Johns Hopkins, like this mad genius that randomly comes up with formulations. So all these different things I document. I try to find the most random thing. It has to connect somehow. I say major or the minor. So what's the most minor thing in this project that I can amplify? And what I found really interesting, there was a Roman politician that lived in ancient Rome during the times of Caesar. And he was a big fan of broccoli. Like giant, big fan of broccoli. He was a bit of a political kind of rebel in the Senate. But what's really interesting is the life expectancy during that time was about 35, 40 years old, but he lived until 80. So he actually doubled the life expectancy.
Yeah, wow.
And he credited a lot to his consumption of all these broccoli and that type of vegetables. And so I came up with the headline, Renegade Roman Politician Holds the Key to Everlasting Life.
Yeah, that grabs attention.
Yeah, so boom. You see? Yeah. So basically what you do is you just you do an inventory of everything about your product, everything, even the small little things, even the testimonials. Like if there's a 5-year-old that took your course and made money with it, that could be. And then you just focus on that minor thing and it creates an interest and it creates a buzz. But of course, you need to always be mindful of give people what they want.
Yeah.
So even they don't expect, you can't give people what they don't expect and give them what they don't want.
Yeah, true.
Because that's the other thing. Then novelty is novelty. Then it's novelty for novelty's sake.
So, yeah. No, that's a great example because it's different. It gets attention, but like you say, you've got to then fulfill on the promise. There's a secret to longer life. That's where the part about the broccoli comes in. Yeah.
So that's really one of the things I use. So that's how my brain is trained by default. So I'm actually giving you a mental model. So I just look for the most tangential things that don't make sense. Because everything else is boring, right? It's not boring works. Sometimes actually boring works. I realize when it comes to YouTube ads, the more boring it is, the better.
YouTube ads?
Yeah, YouTube ads. Because YouTube ads is search intent. That means people are looking for something, they expect something, they want an answer for something. So sometimes the modality is different as well. So pattern interrupts work better for Facebook, I feel, and something different. But every Facebook ad that does well for me on Facebook in terms of video has bombed for me on YouTube.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Because
go on.
Yeah, because I do really weird stuff, right? Like I don't want, like I had a copywriting video that was that says copywriting has too much respect for the dead. I basically like, we had to move on from Halbert and all those things. No disrespect to them. Phenomenally well on Facebook. And I think a mutual friend, Nick Takolal, basically bought my product based on that ad and everything. So he actually bought one of my copywriting programs. And he's a legend in the industry and everything. Yeah. So shout out to Nick. So it's one of those ads that brought these kind of people in. But I tried it on YouTube. Doesn't work, man.
No, I've had the same thing. Like I was promoting my ClickBank offer last year on Facebook ads. We spent out $60K over the course of the year, and we tried running those same videos or similar videos on YouTube, and we were never able to come out in front. So it's a very different sort of environment. What works in one place doesn't work in the other.
Yeah, that's true. And so as a copywriter, you need to learn how to fragment yourself. So it's actually the opposite of defragmentation. You need to be comfortable with fragmentation.
Yeah. How do you go down that process? How do you get started there if you haven't really, if you're a copywriter who sort of has learned sort of one way, one path and one method? Is this something that we can use to branch out and learn different things that work in different places?
Okay, I'm going to introduce another concept, and it's called wealth vehicles. Or wealth vehicles. And what I mean by wealth vehicles is that you can't drive a Maserati to the moon.
Yeah.
Right? You have a nice Maserati, it's awesome, it's fully decked out, but you can't drive it to the moon. You need a rocket ship to go to the moon. And the same goes for either as a copywriter, as a business person and everything. Your business model and your service model can only get you so far. And what I mean by that is, let's say on a more primal level, like as a copywriter, you want to double or triple your fees, right? Like generally, you do want to double. You don't want to just stick to something, to that surface level or that income ceiling. And to break that ceiling, that means you need to write copy that the market values more. So if you write emails all the time, then your income will hit a certain ceiling. I mean, unless you're like Troy and all those who are like killing it, because they partnered and they did something different and everything. But generally, if you want to write something that hits your fees at a much higher fee, then you need to write your video sales letter. Yeah. So VSLs as a wealth vehicle will bring you a lot more freedom than the email side of things. Yeah. And what's better is you write VSLs either for yourself as a product owner or you partner with a product owner. And again, that means you have another wealth vehicle that takes you one step closer to the moon. And so what I'm showing is a framework of how you should prioritize your copywriting or service industry journey, and that's by wealth vehicles. Yeah. Because the problem, right, is we try to pimp our wealth vehicle, and then we can't get this level. Like why I left agency space, I was doing very well in the agency space, 20 plus staff in a few countries and everything. So I realized that my wealth vehicle was problematic. If I want to reach, $1 billion status and everything, it's very hard to do it with an agency. Yeah. Like it's okay for cash flow, but it's horrible for exiting. Because you're getting a times 0.8 to 1, meaning if I make $1 million a year, the most I can get is $800,000 to $1 million a year from someone who wants to acquire me. Yeah. So the wealth vehicle is problematic. And I know that because one of the sovereign funds wanted to acquire me. And they gave such a shit offer that I was like, I rather just move on with my life. Like, well, that's that bad. So that's something I learned the hard way. And the wealth vehicle part is basically then you prioritize if you're either a business owner or a copywriter. I'm just doing copywriters in the context of this podcast. Then you look for, okay, let's master the VSL, because a few months ago, someone just paid me $25,000 for a VSL. Just like that. Didn't even bother to check my samples. Just like, you're good with ClickBank? Okay. Yeah. All right. Yes, $25,000. Yeah. And my side gig, by the way, I don't do freelance a lot because I run my own stuff, right? So I have WIODC and I have my own offer. So I just do this for fun. Yeah.
A fun 25K.
Yeah, fun 25K. So, but that's wealth vehicles. So when you think in terms of that, and how do you master each stage, is you do full immersion. So because I'm a learner, right? But I'm an avid learner, I go so deep in something for very intensely, obsessively for a period of time, then I move on to the next and the next and the next. And so while it will not garner me mastery most of the time, it will garner me sufficiency. So I know who to hire without the person BSing me to run that particular thing. So for instance, I'm going to YouTube ads, I'm mastering it to the point that if I hire a YouTube ad specialist, I know whether he's full of shit or not. Yeah. So that's the key. And the key is just going in depth into different stages. But if I were you, I would go to master the most lucrative thing first. And then work your way down if you need to.
Why start at the bottom,
Yeah.
Thank you for listening to Geniuses of Copywriting with Brian Casangina. To get the full transcript and all the resources mentioned on today's show, go to www.geniusesofcopywriting.com now.